Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining this meeting. This is Lu Wenjiang, Vinchin Product Manager. Vinchin had now launched Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce you some major new changes in this version. And here's the schedule. First, we will take a close look at some major new features. Next, I will make a quick demo on this new version. After this, if you have any questions, we can discuss in the Q&A section. So let's get started. Here's a summary of the new features available on Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5, including image I/O and the CPT API for RHV and overt, cross-platform restore, file and database backup copy, storage protection for ransomware prevention, multi-tenant management for MSPs, backup data encryption, database backup, and the new cloud object storage support. Okay, let's take a close look at some of those major new features. Cross-platform restore, also as known as V2V, virtualization to virtualization. On Vinchin version 6.5, cross-platform restore enables Vinchin users to migrate VMs among up to 10 different virtualizations supported by Vinchin Backup and Recovery, including VMware vSphere, RHV, overt, OLVM, Citrix hypervisor, formerly Xen server, XCP-ng, OpenStack, Huawei FusionCompute, H3C, and Sangfor HCI. But for Hyper-V, it's not supported yet, but we are working on this, and it will be supported soon by next year. The working principle of cross-platform restore is simple. Just connect both the source virtualization platform and the target virtualization platform to Vinchin, and perform a backup from source virtualization and using the backups to create a restore job to the target virtualization. And Vinchin will complete the cross-platform restore process. Cross-platform restore is very helpful to those hybrid virtualization environments and those virtualization users who want to migrate the production system from one virtualization to another. And next, let's take a look at some details of how cross-platform restore works. Cross-platform restore works with both full VM restore and instant VM restore. The cross-platform VM restore job creation process is the same as on version 6. The only difference is that version 6.5 enables selection of different virtual platforms if you have added them to Vinchin Backup Server. For users, this is very straightforward to use cross-platform restore feature. For Vinchin software, there are lots of work to be done in the background, which cannot be seen by the users. So here's a diagram showing the restore process for both cross-platform full VM restore and instant VM restore. Let's see, we got VM backup from virtualization A. Now we are restoring it to virtualization B using full VM restore. Vinchin will convert the VM configurations from A to B and then create a new VM on B using the converted configurations. After this, Vinchin will then convert the VM data to restore the virtual disks on platform B. When all the data has been converted and restored to platform B, you are able to boot the VM on the new virtual platform. The cross-platform restore then will be done. For instant VM restore, Vinchin will first use the backup data to arrange an NFS storage within Vinchin backup server and mount the NFS storage to the virtual platform B, and then create a VM using the converted VM configurations. At the same time, the VM virtual disks will be pointed to the NFS storage. This process will only take like 15 seconds, and now you are able to boot the instant restore VM. Within 1 minute, your VM and its services will be up running on a new virtual platform. And later on, during the non-production hours, a maintenance window can be scheduled to migrate all the data to the new virtual platform. The cross-platform instant VM restore can be used in hybrid virtualization environments to guarantee the service continuity across different virtualizations. If you want to get to know and want to see how Vinchin cross-platform restore works, I will show you in the lab demo later on. And in Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5, we had implemented advanced configurations for VM restore. Actually, this feature is part of the cross-platform restore. But users can benefit from this feature even if they don't need cross-platform restore, and it is enabled by default. Previously, in version 6, to restore a VM, the VM will be restored with its original configurations. Only some basic configurations like the VM power state, the target data store, and the virtual network can be selected. Now on version 6.5, users are allowed to modify the VM CPU and RAM configurations, select its data store and virtual network, configuring the disk provisioning method, and also verifying the data encryption password, and some more advanced options. This allows users to customize the VM during a restore process. Next new feature I'd like to share is for the Archway and Overt users. The implementation of the ImageIO and the CBT API. Taking advantage of the ImageIO API, incremental backups of Archway and Overt with Vinchin version 6.5 is now even efficient and faster than version 6. Previously, you need to install a backup plugin on each Archway or Overt host. When backup job session begins, data transmission will be processed by the backup plugins on the Archway or Overt host from the hypervisor layer. As for the incremental backup mode, you can choose between SpeedKit and ordinary. But SpeedKit mode requires a snapshot to be reserved for each VM, and ordinary mode takes longer time to calculate the VM disk increments. Now on Vinchin version 6.5, with the implementation of ImageIO API, you can use CBT for incremental backups. No snapshot reservation required, and also no backup plugin installation required. Everything goes through the standard API. And for those advanced features like configurable backup network, data reduction features, and multi-threaded transmission, and they are all enabled with the ImageIO API. And furthermore, we also enabled zero blocks exclusion from source on this version, which means the zero data blocks will not be transferred to Vinchin server. They've been directly excluded by the ImageIO API at the hypervisor layer, and only transfer the valid data blocks to Vinchin server. This will save you a lot of bandwidth and the backup window. If you are an Archway or Avert user, so running the most recent versions, ImageIO is the best choice. But at the same time, Vinchin Backup plugin will still be available for the older versions. And for VM Restore, Vinchin has a unique technology which is named Virtual Full Backup. It is a backstage feature which cannot be seen by the users. With the implementation of ImageIO API for Archway and Avert, when restoring a VM using ImageIO, Virtual Full Backup also works. A backup chain inside a Vinchin Backup storage can be virtually mapped as a single full restore point for VM restoration. The required data blocks for restoring a VM to a specific point of time are mapped into an index file. This can be done instantly without merging or reorganizing the data blocks to an actual full virtual disk file. When transferring the data blocks to restore the VM using ImageIO API, Vinchin can directly transfer the required data blocks indicated in the index file and write the data blocks to the newly created virtual disk according to the data blocks offsets. For zero data blocks, the ImageIO also has its interface to directly write zero blocks without the need to generate and transfer the zero blocks from Vinchin side. And because of the flexibility of ImageIO API, it allows Vinchin to transfer necessary data blocks and skip unnecessary blocks. So as a result, it also allows Vinchin to create multiple threads to process the VM restore transmission at the same time, which can dramatically improve the VM restore efficiencies. The virtual full backup and ImageIO API combination can be applied to full VM restore, instant restore, and also LAN migration functionalities. Next one, backup data encryption. This feature is designed to protect your VM backup data from unauthorized access. When it's enabled, the VM backup data will be encrypted and written into the backup storage. The encryption is on job basis. All backup data of the VMs included in the same job will be encrypted, and a password can be used to secure the VM backups. When performing a VM restore, no matter full VM restore, granular restore, or instant restore, password verification is always required before restoration. So only the user who has the password can access those data assets within the backups. And the encryption is valid through the following scenarios, including local backups, on-site copy to another storage, off-site copy to another Vinchin backup server, on-site and cloud archive, and even detach the backup storage from original Vinchin server and mount to a new Vinchin server to import the backup data. In the above scenarios, password will always be required to restore your VMs. So please keep your password safe and make sure you will not lose it. Otherwise, without the password, your backup will become unusable. But the backup data encryption feature is optional. By default, it is disabled. If you want to enable it, simply turn on this option and give an encryption password. Backup window indicator. It is a helpful feature for medium to large scale Vinchin backup infrastructures. Because in such an environment, usually a large amount of backup jobs need to be created. About how to uniformly distribute the backup job sessions to all the available backup time windows could be a challenge to the system administrator. With backup window indicator, you can avoid high density of backup job sessions to be scheduled in same time durations. It can avoid heavy backup traffic from slowing down the production environment and also the backup infrastructure. The utilization of the production and the backup resources can be balanced. There are 4 categories of time windows. Idle means no jobs are scheduled. Normal means there are jobs scheduled, but with low job session density. New jobs are recommended to be scheduled to idle or normal time windows. For crowded, it's not recommended to schedule new jobs to the crowded time windows. If you do need to use these time windows, you may not get the best backup performances. And as for busy, you should avoid new jobs to be scheduled to these time windows because there might be risks of overloading both the backup and the production systems. Next, let's take a look at the database backup. Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5 now support backing up 3 databases: MySQL, MS SQL Server, and Oracle database. For MySQL database backup, the table on the left showing the versions that we support and also the operating systems that we have tested, including CentOS Linux 6, 7, and 8, Debian Linux, and the Ubuntu Linux are also tested. But currently, MySQL for Windows is not supported. The backup granularity of MySQL is on database instance basis. And the backup features for MySQL database, including full backup, incremental backup, and log backup. Some advanced backup options, including data deduplication, data compression, and backup speed controller are enabled with MySQL backup. The restoration of the MySQL database, including override database restore, redirect restore to new path, or rollback transaction restore. For Oracle database backup, it's based on the Oracle RMAN, the Oracle Recovery Manager utility. We support Oracle 11G, 12C, 18C, and 19C. And Oracle database can be based on Windows Server 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2019. For Linux-based deployment, we support Red Hat Enterprise Linux and CentOS Linux 6 and 7. And Oracle database deployment can be single instance deployment, cluster deployment. The supported backup mode, including full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, and archive log backup. And there are some advanced backup options enabled with Oracle database backup, including data deduplication, Vinchin data compression, Oracle compression, and multi-threaded transmission. As for Oracle database restore, you have options to override database restore, new database restore, rollback transaction restore, and also multi-threaded transmission is available for Oracle database restore. For MS SQL Server database backup, it is based on the VDI, the virtual device interface. Supported database version including SQL Server 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2019. For the Windows Server version, also from 2008 to 2019. As for SQL Server for Linux, it's currently not supported. And the supported SQL Server deployment, including standalone, failover cluster, and the always-on availability groups are all supported. The supported backup mode for SQL Server, including full backup, differential backup, and transaction log backup. Also, some advanced backup options are enabled for SQL Server, like data deduplication, Vinchin data compression, SQL Server compression, database integrity check, and page checksum verification. And the backup granularity for SQL Server is different with MySQL and Oracle. It's on the database basis. To restore SQL Server database, you can override database restore, new database restore, and rollback transaction restore if log backup is available. Okay, the next major new feature, multi-tenant. This feature is for managed service providers who want to deliver backup services for their customers using Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5. The MSPs can use Vinchin Backup and Recovery to deploy managed backup infrastructure and manage all kinds of resources within the backup infrastructure, and also create unlimited tenant users. Resources including backup nodes, storages, virtual machines, file and database backup agents can be directly allocated to users or user groups, or those resources can be divided into resource groups and then allocated to the users or user groups. With the above mentioned services, MSPs can apply flexible bidding rules to the tenant users. As for the tenant users, let's take a look at what services the tenant user can get from MSPs. A tenant is a client of the MSP, usually a company or an organization. A tenant can be an existing customer who's already using the managed VPS hosting services from the MSP, or can be a potential customer who wants managed backup services. With Vinchin Backup and Recovery, Tenant Management, MSPs can provide the tenant users dedicated web portal to access their backup and the restore services. All the tenant users are isolated to each other, which guarantees their data security and the user privacy. A tenant can manage sub-users within their company or organization and can allocate permissions and resources to the sub-users. Storage resources, backup nodes, virtual machines, file and database agents can be allocated to a tenant user for backing up. And tenant admin users can access and manage their own backups. And the MSPs don't have the access to the tenant users' data assets. For tenant bidding, it's very flexible for the MSPs. Bidding can be based on tenant users' monthly or yearly subscription, or based on the amount of the usage, which is calculated by how many days the tenant users use the backup services. For monthly and yearly subscription, MSPs can set up the storage and the workload unit price. For example, $10 per GB storage per month, or $10 per VM backup per month. For the amount of usage bidding method, MSPs can define the unit price on daily basis, and the total price will depend on how many days the tenants used the backup services. And the bidding rules can be configured to use multi-currency and can send notification emails to notify the tenant users on daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. And there will also be billing reports generated for each tenant. File and database copy. Previously on Vinchin version 6, backup copy is only applicable to copy your VM backups to a secondary storage or secondary location for disaster recovery. Now with version 6.5, you are allowed to make a copy of your file backups and database backups the same way as the VM backup copy to keep your data safe from storage failures and site disasters. The on-site file and database copy can be used to directly restore files or databases if there's a storage failure with the primary backup storage. The off-site copy can be used to restore files or databases on the remote sites if there's any unexpected disaster with the primary site. And you can also retrieve the off-site copy data back to the local storage on the primary site Vinchin, and then use the retrieved data to restore your files and databases. And for the file and database copy jobs, you can set an independent retention policy to keep the data for a longer time period than the primary backups if needed. Storage protection. It's a new feature which can protect your backup data against ransomware or other malwares. Let's see how it works. On the Vinchin version 6.5, a daemon process will be applied to monitor the I/O requests from all applications within Vinchin backup infrastructure, including Vinchin backup server and the Vinchin backup node. Only the I/O requests from Vinchin applications are allowed to write and modify the backup data inside Vinchin backup storage. Requests from other applications will be all blocked. And to prevent the malwares to disguise as Vinchin applications, the daemon process will also protect Vinchin application binaries. For example, the backup service applications, backup copy, and backup archive applications. So except Vinchin software, no other software or application can modify your backups in Vinchin storages. With storage protection enabled, even the root user of Vinchin backup server cannot delete the backup data from command line interface. So storage protection can also prevent the backup data from accidental or malicious deletion. But there is a condition to guarantee the storage protection always works. The storage is attached to Vinchin server must be exclusive block devices. Otherwise, there's possibilities that malwares might bypass Vinchin to access your data from the storage device level. Next, the extended cloud object storage support. On Vinchin version 6.5, we had added 6 new object storage supports, including Azure Blob Storage, Huawei OBS, Tencent COS, Wasabi Cloud Storage, Ceph S3 Object Storage, and the Minio Object Storage. Vinchin users now have more choices of selecting their data archive destinations, no matter to the cloud or on-premise object storages. as we know, for enterprises, long-term data retention is usually required. By taking advantage of the ultimate durability of the cloud object storages, users can archive their inactive data to the object storages for long-term retention. This can guarantee their data is always accessible when needed, and also can comply with the data security laws or regulations if required to. As mentioned about the laws and regulations, there might be some additional requirements which requires enterprises to keep their data within their country or region. So the above mentioned cloud object storages or on-premise object storages can be chosen according to their actual requirements. On system configuration backup, it is now available on Vinchin version 6.5. It can be used to back up the configurations of Vinchin backup server, and the backup file can be used to restore configurations of Vinchin backup server when needed. For example, after a Vinchin server reinstallation or Vinchin server migration due to the hardware failure, so you can quickly use the configuration backup to resume the old Vinchin server or the new installation to a working state. The backup can be taken manually or can be scheduled to take configuration backups automatically. The manual backups are done by the system administrator. After a manual backup, a backup file will be downloaded to the system administrator desktop. And the manual backups are recommended to be done after some major system configuration changes. The auto backups can be scheduled on daily basis, and you can set up how many backups to be retained in the backup storage. This can guarantee you with the possibility to restore configurations within the retention period. Okay, so except the above mentioned new features, there are lots of other new features and improvements in Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5. I will not mention them all today. And next, let me give you a brief demo on this new version. But due to the time limit, I will demonstrate 3 new features: cross-platform restore, database backup, and multi-tenant. Okay, let's begin. Here we are looking at the home screen of Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5. And for the first feature I'm going to demonstrate is cross-platform restore. So I'm going to use an existing backup from VMware, and I'm going to restore the backup to a Vert platform. Okay, and select the restore point, and here select the Vert host, and then let's submit this job creation and manually start the job. Now Vinchin is trying to use the backup. Actually, it's from VMware, using the backup data to arrange NFS storage. And this NFS storage will be mounted to the Vert platform. Because I'm running this Vinchin backup server as a virtual machine, so the performance is not so good. And now the NFS storage is ready, and it's now trying to create the instant restore virtual machine. Let's take a look from the overt web console. Check the storage demands. And this one is for instant restore created by Vinchin Backup server. And then let's take a look at the virtual machine list. Here's the instant restore virtual machine. And let's see if it's ready to start up. Yes, it's ready. And the first, I need to modify an option for me to be able to connect to the console. And okay. And let's run this virtual machine. Now, Overt will try to start up this virtual machine, which its virtual disks are actually on Vinchin server. And then let's take a look from the console. Because of the backup server is an virtual machine, so the disk I/O is not so good, and it might take a little while to start up the instant restore virtual machine. But it will not take so long because for the instant restore, Overt platform will only load some required data to be able to start this virtual machine and its services. Okay, we see the progress bar. Okay, almost there. Now it's up running, and I'm able to use the services in within this virtual machine. Actually, it's originally from VMware platform. We just performed a backup and now performed a restore to the Overt platform. Now it's up running and you are able to access the services. But it's this is for emergency recovery because the data is still inside the Vinchin and we need to perform a migration job to migrate all the data back to migrate all the data from Vinchin to Overt to complete the whole migration cross-platform restore process. And let's use the new image IO API. And okay. The job tab has changed into migration, and it's now creating a new virtual machine for migration. Usually, you don't have to do the cross-platform restore this way. You can directly run full VM cross-platform restore. But in some emergency situations, you want to immediately run a virtual machine backed up from one virtual platform to another, you can use the instant restore job. After maybe during the non-production hours, and you can perform a migration to migrate all the data to the new virtual platform to complete the whole cross-platform restore process. And now it's transferring the backup data from Vinchin to Avert. For the migration feature, it will take 3 steps to complete the migration. First, the original backup data will be transferred to Avert, and then it will migrate some cache data to the Avert platform, because for instant restore, the original backup data will be mounted to Avert platform using NFS in read-only mode. The cache data will be written to a new cache storage, and so it can guarantee your original backup data is unchanged by using the instant restore. So during the runtime of the instant restore VM, if I have generated any new data inside the instant restore VM, after the migration, the new data will also be migrated to the new virtual platform. Okay, the migration is done, and the instant restore virtual machine is powered off, and it's let me change the option for me to connect the console and then start the virtual machine. And at this time, you can just simply stop the instant restore job, and the NFS storage and the instant restore virtual machine will be deleted from the Avert platform. As we can see, the instant restore storage is now knocked and will be deleted from the platform. And after this, the instant restore virtual machine will be also deleted. Okay, it's already gone. And now let's take a look at the migrated virtual machine. Okay, it's up running now. I'm not going to log in now. So that's the whole process of instant cross-platform instant VM restore. As I just mentioned, that you don't have to do this. You can just directly perform a full VM cross-platform restore. This is just used for emergencies. And so next, I'm going to show you how the database backup works. I'm going to use MS6 server. Before adding the database backup agent, you need to install a lightweight backup agent inside the database server. And after that, you will be able to add the agent to Vinchin Backup server. And after that, you need to license the database backup agent. And then you need to authenticate the database instance. I'm going to use SQL Server authentication. Okay. Now we are able to perform database backup. Here, as I just mentioned, that the granularity of the SQL Server backup is on the database basis. So you can select the desired database to backup. It's not like the MySQL and Oracle database. You need to do the backup on the database instance basis. And the next, you can enable full backup, differential backup, and log backup. And here you got data deduplication, compression, and here are also some advanced strategies, including checking the database integrity before backup. And you can also enable SQL Server compression, but this is not necessary because the data compression on Vinchin side is already enough. And but if you are going to enable the SQL Server compression for some database servers, is if the server performance is not so good, it might slow down the database server. So it's not recommended to enable this. And for the page checksum, it can be used to guarantee the database backup, the backups to enable the backups are not damaged during the backup process. And the next, it's just submit the creation of this job. And we can simply start the job to test. Okay, it's already done. And let's see from the history job tab. As we can see, the database size is around 75 megabytes, but the written size is only around 13 megabytes. And we only enabled Vinchin data compression without enabling the SQL Server compression. And except the database backup, the full backup, we can also run a differential backup and the log backup. Let's start log backup. I think it's done. It's already done. And as for database restore, you can select the from the log backup, and you are allowed to do the transaction rollback restore. And here's the time range that you can roll back the database. And after this, it's just submit the job, and it's already running and completed. So that's the database backup and restore feature. Next, I'm going to show you the multi-tenant. First, let's create a tenant user. Here we already got one, and let's delete this user. Okay, let's add one new user. And okay, at the same time, it will create a new user, the tenant admin user. And you need to allocate resources to this user. And you are able to allocate virtual machines for this tenant for backing up. And the backup node can be used by this tenant, and the storage can be used by this tenant. After this, we need to set the quota for this tenant user. Let's select the workload quantity. Then let's enable 10 virtual machine backup, 10 file backup, and 10 database backup. And also let's enable the backup data management for this tenant. Okay, after this, the tenant user will be able to access the Vinchin Backup and Recovery web portal to access the backup services. Okay, here's the web portal of the tenant user. VM backup, database backup, file backup are all available. And here, let's see. Here are the 10 virtual machines that I have just assigned to this tenant user. So this tenant user can create VM backup from those virtual machines. And for database backup, the tenant user can add their own database instance database to from their own web portal to do the backup and restore. Let's add one. And it's the same way. You need to license the database backup agent and authenticate the database instance. But this database agent only belongs to the tenant user. The MSP will not have access to the database backup agent. And after this, the tenant user will be able to perform the database backup and also database restore. And for the tenant users, MSPs can also optionally enable bidding for them. And you can create flexible bidding rules from here. And bidding type, you can select from monthly subscription, yearly subscription, and the amount of usage. Let's use monthly subscription. And you can choose from multiple currencies. And the bidding unit can be the usage of the storage or the workload quantity. It's, for example, 10 yuan for VM backup per month, and 5 for file backup, and 5 for database backup. And after this, you are able to add tenant to the bidding rule, and let's add this tenant to the bidding rule. And here's the here you can specify how many workloads can be used by this tenant, and the subscription period, for example, 12 months. And okay, This one, the bidding rule is optional, but it can be enabled for all the tenant users, and you can set up different bidding rules, and each of the tenant user can have an individual bidding rule. Okay, I think that's all for my demonstration. And if you have any further questions, or if I missed your question, and you can just simply drop me an email. And if you are interested in Vinchin Backup and Recovery version 6.5, it's now available for free trial. Just go to our official website and simply leave your contact info, and you will be able to download this new version. And also, free trial license key will be sent to your mailbox. And thank you again for your time, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.